University. Additional funding is provided by the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association and the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, presenting TarHeelGardening.com, your online gardening resource for North Carolina plants, professional advice, and more. And by Appalachian Naturescapes, custom landscape designs specializing in Blue Ridge native landscape themes, from intimate gardens to elaborate outdoor living spaces. AppalachianNaturescapes.com. Also by the North Carolina Sod Producers Association, representing sod growers throughout the state who produce quality turf grasses to meet a variety of residential, commercial, and recreational turf grass needs. ncsod.org.
Coming up, learning, leading, and lending a helping hand in the garden. Next. Hi, welcome to In the Garden. I'm Bryce Lane. When it comes to innovation and outreach, North Carolina gardens are among the best. This week, we visit 2 gardens in our state that are small in size, but making a big impact in their communities. The new Hanover County Arboretum and Bullington Gardens in Hendersonville. Both gardens provide programs to help educate youth, adults, and those with special needs. This is John Murphy, who is the director here at Bullington Gardens. And John, I suspect that most people in North Carolina wouldn't know that Hendersonville has such a beautiful place to come and visit. Could you tell us the history of Bullington Gardens, how it came to be, where it got its name?
Well, it started with Bob Bullington. He and his wife Sally moved down here from New York. Bob was a New York City policeman, but always had an interest in horticulture and wanted to start a nursery. So they built their home here, and on these 12 acres they established a nursery and ran it for until 1989. So they moved here about 1970, about 1989 is when he died. And then it sort of was in a little bit of a limbo, but it became a partnership between Henderson County Education Foundation, Henderson County Public Schools, and Henderson County Extension here in North Carolina, Cooperative Extension here in Henderson County. And so that's what it is now, is a public garden and a site for a lot of programs.
Okay, so you said it was about 12 acres?
12 acres.
And I see that it's split up into a number of different gardens. You've got nice signs that show we're in the shade garden right now, which is just a lovely setting. Yeah. If a visitor came, what kinds of gardens would they see?
Well, we've added to some of the gardens that Bob Bullington established. Luckily, he collected some of these very unusual and beautiful trees here. And so we've started a perennial garden, herb garden. There's a wonderful native woodland garden. We have a therapy garden, which is specifically designed for people with disabilities to have easy access to gardening. And there's a butterfly garden. We have a pumpkin patch that we use to grow giant pumpkins with young children, and just a number of other gardens, including a nature trail.
Well, you've got a lot of spaces crammed into that 12 acres. Now, I know you mentioned that Mr. Bullington was very committed to education, and I know Bullington Gardens has an extensive program and number of different programs. Maybe talk a little bit about the programs that people and children, students can partake of here.
Well, yeah, since we're part of the Henderson County school system, we do offer, and that's probably the heart of what we do, is school programs. So we do a lot of programs for elementary school students based on the science curriculum. We do some school gardens, we do plant explorations, just a number of things, both here at Bullington where they come here, and also on the school campuses. We have some school gardens that we do there. And then the other main focus we have with school children is high school. We work with special needs high school students. And there are 2 groups that come. One is a group in the occupational course of study. These are kids that have some challenges, but they're high-functioning students, and so they're here to basically learn how to work and to gain some job skills. And then the other program we have is called horticultural therapy, and those students have more significant challenges, both physical and developmental. And we have a variety of different activities that we design and do with them to try to create some communication skills or some motor skills or whatever it is that we feel it is beneficial to them.
Right, and that horticultural aspect is such a valuable tool to help enable these individuals.
It is.
The therapy garden is just kind of a very unique looking place. You've really created a nice space for that.
Yeah, it's there is a horticultural therapy is a sort of a national profession, and there's another actually really good. There's probably several therapy gardens around. There's one in Wilmington, and I actually went over there and looked at what they had and sort of designed a little bit based on what they have. So it's designed so that everything is off the ground. It's hard packed, so wheelchairs can flow through it easily. There's some vertical spaces that they can manipulate. So it's just an easier way for people to get into gardening.
Right. Well, it's a great place to come and visit, but also so much more valuable in that you offer these wonderful programs, not only to children and students, but also adults. John, thanks so much for inviting us here. And folks, if you come to Hendersonville or you come to the mountains, be sure to visit Bullington Gardens, because it's certainly a garden well worth seeing. The perennial garden at Bullington Gardens is a wonderful collection of all different types of perennial plants. First, the herbaceous perennials. You can see this wonderful Amsonia that's in full flower with a soft baby blue flower, and Centuria, the perennial bachelor's button with that deep, rich blue flower. Here in front of me are sedum that are growing, and they've already bunched up and have a reddish to a slight burgundy coloration on that bluish-green leaf. Now the deciduous shrubs. Here's Weigela. This is a variegated Weigela with wonderful pink flowers just coating all the stems. And a yellow spirea, and that yellow does very well with the blue flowers of the herbaceous perennials. They've also incorporated some evergreen shrubs along the way too. It's truly a mixed border. Now this garden is oriented south-north, which means that it faces east, and it'll get morning sun up till about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But they've also added deciduous flowering trees, small trees on the back side of the border. What an ingenious idea in that late in the day when the sun is so hot and the plants might be experiencing some moisture stress, these trees provide the needed shade and cooling for that border. Not only that, they're a wonderful collection of flowering trees with exfoliating bark. Here's Stewartia pseudocamellia, which will have a beautiful white flower later on this spring, but just look at that bark. Now they've limbed the trees up so you look in and you can see that bark. And the Cusa dogwood, Cornus Cusa, which is now coming into flower just as we speak, later than our native dogwood, and the exfoliating bark there. It's a wonderful collection. Well, they've gone one step further here as well, and this is a great idea for anyone that's thinking about doing their own border. Look at this wonderful curvilinear path that runs from one end of the border to the other. Couple of things to remember if you're going to do this as an edging along the bed. First of all, curvilinear. Make it move and flow. That invites people to walk down. Secondly, it's a wonderful wide pathway that you can walk with concrete pavers. And if you look, you can see they have plastic edging that holds it all together. It's a great idea because it invites people to walk down close to the plants. Not only that, but it separates the turf grass from the bed, and you avoid some of those very pesky weed problems with having turf growing into the bed. Now, Bullington has also done a great job in their herb garden where they've used bricks as hardscape and created a very geometric design. Now, we could even employ this idea in our own homes, even on a smaller scale. We might not want to have an herb garden that is that large, but we can still create a very geometric, kind of a unique presentation in that regard. Now, John Murphy tells me that they're going to try to make that herb garden a little bit more accessible by taking the timbers and raising it up so that the beds will be about just below waist high. That way you can garden in the herb garden standing up, makes it more accessible, and even small children can come and at chest level they can work with those plants. Just another unique idea that we might try employing in our own garden. So incorporate perennials together, woodies with herbaceous perennials. Remember that curvilinear path, and you too can create a lovely garden like you see here. As you prepare to plant a woodland garden, it's really important to go in and remove many of the weedy species. Now, a lot of weeds can be exotic, like Japanese maple seedlings that pop up here and there. Those need to be removed. But there are some native species that are just noxious weeds. And two are very confusing to identify. One is called Virginia creeper, and the other, of course, is poison ivy. And oftentimes people get confused with the two and end up with a bad case of a skin rash from poison ivy. Now let's look at Virginia creeper. It's right here, actually next to the poison ivy. Virginia creeper is called Parthenocissus quinquefolia. Now quinquefolia, quinque means five, folia, foliage. So if you look at this vine, and it can grow as a ground cover and climb up trees, you can see that it has 5 leaflets. And that's the way you identify that it's Virginia creeper. You'll see the 5 leaflets growing around, like you see right here. Now look right next to it. This is Toxicodendron radicans. Even the name sounds kind of ominous. Poison ivy. Now poison ivy has a trifoliate leaf. That would mean 3 leaflets. Not only that, but as the leaves get larger, they get quite shiny. And so if you look at the poison ivy on the right here and the Parthenocissus quinquefolia, the Virginia creeper on the left, you can see a significant difference between the two. Now this is a real important lesson to teach your children as well when they play outside in natural areas, that they can avoid that poison ivy. Now poison ivy is a vine, and the seeds are spread by birds that eat the white fruit. It grows up on trees and it can get everywhere, much like Virginia creeper. If you're going to remove it, you've got to completely and totally cover your skin so that oils on the leaves don't touch your skin. Now if you think you've actually touched poison ivy, it's important to immediately wash with soap and water, and wash thoroughly. But folks, use cold water, not warm water. That'll keep your pores closed and it'll prevent the spread of that oil into your skin. So don't let these 2 noxious weeds prevent you from creating a wonderful woodland border, but just remember to keep an eye out for that poison ivy and teach your children to stay away from it as well. This is Susan Brown, who is the Consumer Horticulture Agent here in New Hanover County. And the main offices are actually located at the Arboretum. Now Susan, the Arboretum, I know it's been around for a while, but I'm not exactly sure how long, and maybe a little bit of a history about this place?
Sure, I've only been here for a short while, but as far as I know, the grounds became an official Arboretum in 1989. It's a 7-acre facility, and in the last 3 years, it's really been hit hard as far as trying to develop grounds for people to come and enjoy, but not only that, learn a little bit about growing plants around here.
Well, now I know that a lot of people come to Wilmington for the beach, and this is another destination, this Arboretum. If I came and I was visiting and I walked through the Arboretum, what kinds of gardens do you have to show that people could learn some things from?
Gosh, we have a lot of different gardens and we keep adding to them. Anytime we have any extra space, we fill it in with something. We've got a vegetable garden where we donate all the harvest to the Good Shepherd. We have a rose garden, which, you know, when I first moved here, everyone said roses won't grow well. Right. But the rose garden is a tribute to that, showing you that it is a lot of work, but they can be beautiful.
It is gorgeous right there.
We have a Japanese garden, which is one of my favorites, because you can actually walk back into the garden and you can feel the temperature drop. So it's almost like a niche garden back there.
Well, now I notice you also have a large body of water. You've got a pond with some fountains, maybe a waterfall. Was that always there, or was that something that was built when the garden was put in?
All of those are new.
Okay.
The large pond in the center was actually an athletic field in the past.
Oh
so
my
when
gosh.
you think about that, it's pretty amazing to see. But it's one of the reasons the pond is so large. And we have about over 100 koi fish in there that the children can come and feed.
Well, now speaking of the children, that little house, that little garden, is that like a little children's garden there?
It is. It's a children's garden, and believe it or not, when the children's garden was put in years ago, there were actually poisonous plants in there. So we went in and redid it. Well, not me, but the staff went in and redesigned it, and now it's a perfect place for children to play and touch and just really become immersed in gardening.
Well, that's cool. Now it's been a while since I've been here, and you've got some really lovely ornamental trees and shrubs, woody plants, as well as a lot of great color. But I also see some new areas, speaking of color, with some interesting furniture and a couple of new gardens over there. What's going on there? Because that all looks new to me.
Well, we actually put in a new picnic area this year.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
We had a large area where the tables were just kind of scattered and there weren't a whole lot of plantings. So what we decided to do was make a smaller area with trash cans. There's actually a grill over there, and you'll see a lot of different colors with the tables as well. And we're hoping people will use it for parties or just to come out and have lunch.
It's a great space. I love the way you've got it fenced in too, so it's kind of intimate in that regard. Now, is there a butterfly or pollinator garden over there as well?
There sure is. We actually have a butterfly garden, and if you didn't know it, if you look down at the garden from above, it is actually in the shape of a butterfly.
Oh, that's cool. I love the way all those plants fit together and you get a lot of pollinators. That's fantastic. Okay, so I see the parking lot's bigger, and is that a kind of a garden out there in front of that building now?
Actually, it is. It's a new shade garden area, so we're trying to focus on what will do well in the shade, and we put it up in that area. It's not as heavily visited, but we're hoping to promote more visitors up at the entrance.
That's fantastic. So there's gracious plenty to see if you come here. Now that's 7 acres, that's a lot of gardens. You don't take care of that all by yourself. How do you get all the maintenance done on this place?
Well, that's what's pretty amazing, is that we rely mainly on volunteers to keep up with this place. They come in, and we have crews that come in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, even Fridays. They come every week. They have a real dedication to this garden, and I think it's what makes this place so successful.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Susan, thank you for getting us reoriented to this beautiful garden, and we're going to take some time and go and look around.
Great, thanks for coming.
Another major attraction to the new Hanover County Arboretum is the Ability Garden. This garden provides therapeutic gardening instruction and activities for those with various ranges of physical and mental abilities, and is organized by Heather Collegian. So Heather, this term Ability Garden, where did it come from, and really what does it mean?
Well, the Ability Garden, the term came from looking at the garden and wanting to be inclusive in the garden and bring people who don't always have the opportunity and the ability to work in the garden and give them that opportunity. And we didn't want to say disabled. We were trying to look at a good way to express it. An Ability Garden is focusing on their abilities, what they can accomplish, and making things easier and better for them in the garden.
So a real positive spin.
A positive, yes.
So what makes this garden unique as far as the way gardening's done?
Well, we think we're unique because we're in a public garden space, and we make gardening accessible. So we have special tables, raised beds that they can work in. All of our surfaces are wheelchair accessible. Hand washing stations are wheelchair accessible. Our tools accommodate a wide range of needs. And we just try to make gardening as easy as possible so that everyone can enjoy it.
So what kinds of activities do the people who come to garden here, what do they do?
They do just about everything because it's all based on their need. So we can adapt our groups to whatever the need is. If we have a group that's very physically restricted, we have a lot of adaptable tools, and they'll do tabletop gardening. If we have a group that is very mobile, we'll let them work in the beds. Sometimes they'll even work on the greater Arboretum grounds and do some work there, planting and pulling weeds.
So there's a real advantage to having this facility be part of a bigger garden.
Oh, it's huge. Another great aspect is we get to take walks and look at the different types of plants that are growing in the seasonally, and talk about the changes in the season and the changes throughout the year, and incorporate the whole garden into our programming.
So if you had to name like 3 specific gardening activities that are kind of the standard that lots of people do and really enjoy doing, what would they be?
Well, people really love to sit at the table and just pot plants. They get to see immediately the work that they've done before they leave. And then those plants we take and sell and put the money back into the program. So it really does reinforce what they've done. They also love to walk around the garden and see the flowers and talk about the different vegetables growing in the garden. And then, of course, feeding the koi fish in the pond is always a highlight for everyone, no matter what their age. They love to go and feed the fish.
So what is it about gardening that connects us all?
Well, we've found that as this program has grown over the past 13 years, that we've really become a gateway for individuals who come through our program to get back into the greater community, to be part of the whole Arboretum, Wilmington, and to find their niche where sometimes they may have felt shut out. And so that's been a real positive. It's something that we are very proud of.
Well, and you should be too, because I think what it also does is it serves to connect the folks that come here as a, just to visit, and it doesn't separate the two, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. A lot of our participants, once they've been through the program, they still come back as supported volunteers. They still want to give back to our program, and still they feel really invested here. So that's a wonderful thing.
Heather, thanks so much for showing us the Ability Gardening, telling us how it works.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share what we do with everyone.
And folks, we really do have a great opportunity in North Carolina. Both ends of the state, we've got special gardens that invite all kinds of people in to participate in this great activity. I'm walking through the butterfly garden here at the Arboretum in New Hanover County. And of course they've got butterfly bush, they've got a great orange zinnia and pentas, which attracts a lot of insects, butterflies, moths, and bees. But this is a tree that needs to be in every garden that helps pollinators. This is Heptacodium myconoides. Now that's kind of an interesting scientific name. Common name is called seven sunflower, and we'll get back to that in a minute. Here's an Asian plant that grows very well in North Carolina. It grows about 15 to 20 feet tall, kind of a vase-shaped habit with thick green leaves that are opposite along the stem. Now look at the bark. It exfoliates at a young age, and if you look down on the trunk, it peels back. That's a nice winter interest. Now in late summer and early fall, it produces these clusters of white flowers. And if you look carefully, oh my gosh, you can see bees, you can see wasps, moths and butterflies love this plant, so it really attracts those pollinators. Now it gets the name seven sunflower based on the way that the flower clusters are placed on this inflorescence. And if you look real carefully, you can see that there are 7 clusters of flowers right on the end of each stem. And if you look, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where it got the name seven sunflower. I might have named it something different, but that's a unique and interesting story to tell about this plant. In addition, after the white flowers come out and all those pollinators come, then a small reddish purple fruit develops with calyces that turn pink. And so this plant lights up late in the fall. It's a great plant to incorporate into the garden because oftentimes we don't put enough woody trees or shrubs in a butterfly or pollinator garden. So here's one you should definitely add to your list. Our plant of the week is planted right outside the extension office at the New Hanover County Arboretum. Send in your suggestions for a plant of the week to our website or our Facebook page, and if we use it on the show, we'll send you an In the Garden t-shirt. Well, this great herbaceous plant is called Datura metal double purple, the double purple datura or Jimson weed. Now this is an herbaceous annual. You plant the seeds after the chance of frost, and it'll grow up as tall as 4 to 6 feet. Look at the stems, deep, rich burgundy with large green leaves, and then the flower buds come out. Now this is a summer flowering plant, flowers all summer long, well into the fall, and we plant this plant in our gardens for the wonderful annual flowers. Now this is a double purple flowered version of a plant called Datura. It is a plant that grows from seed. There are lots of white flowering versions that many people use in their gardens. It's related to the ancient trumpet vine, Brugmansia, but it's more shrubby than it is tall. 4 to 6 feet tall. Look at the buds. They're a rich purple burgundy color. Now what's unique about this is, look right over here. You can see 2 sets of petals coming out at the same time, resulting in this wonderful double flower. On the outside it has that wonderful purple color, and then on the inside it's cream colored to white. Really makes a very, very loud statement, and the shrub is covered with flowers all summer long. They generally last about a day or two, and when they open up in the evening, it attracts lots of insects because there's a slight fragrance that you can actually smell in the evening. Check out the fruit, kind of a unique and interesting conversation piece, rounded, green with some purple coloration on the fruit as well. So you plant this in full sun, mixed borders, accent plant. This really enhances the summer garden. It's a great plant of the week, Datura metal double purple, the double purple Datura. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. We would especially like to thank the folks at New Hanover County Arboretum and Bullington Gardens for their hospitality. We've had a great time. So until next time, I'll be looking for you in the garden.
To register for In the Garden, the course, call NC State's Distance Education Program at 1-866-GO-STATE. That's 1-866-467-8283. Or log on to distance.ncsu.edu. For more information about the program or to suggest a plant of the week, go to unctv.org/inthegarden.
Funding for In the Garden is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV, and by North Carolina State University. Additional funding is provided by the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association and the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, presenting TarHeelGardening.com, your online gardening resource for North Carolina plants, professional advice, and more. And by Appalachian Naturescapes, custom landscape designs specializing in Blue Ridge native landscape themes, from intimate gardens to elaborate outdoor living spaces. AppalachianNaturescapes.com. Also by the North Carolina Sod Producers Association, representing sod growers throughout the state who produce quality turf grasses to meet a variety of residential, commercial, and recreational turf grass needs. ncsod.org.